Tip number 1. Start planning monthly and then set weekly fake deadlines. For example, today you completed one chapter at school or uni, so you will take mock test of yourself on Saturday, which is gonna be your fake deadline. Tip number 2. Use timer. Turn timer on for 5 minutes initially and then take one task and jumpstart doing it. Think of time as precious as money. Tip number 3. Use active recall techniques. Start using active recall as your learning equipment every time. Even if you haven't studied the whole semester, this thing is gonna save you. Try Feynman technique. Choose one topic to memorize. At first, choose a small topic. Write or teach everything you currently know about it, even if it doesn't make sense. Then look back to the material and see where you are missing and try to make it make sense. Answer your own why questions by yourself. Try Lightner system. Have flashcards ready for this. Have different boxes representing different levels of difficulty. Flashcards are initially placed in the first box. If you answered them all correctly, then move it to the second box. If you didn't answer correctly, then that flashcard goes back to the first box and you gotta start this game all over again. This is best for everyday's spaced repetition. Try inversion learning. Also known as eating the frog, it involves flipping the order of how you learn a subject. Instead of starting with the basics to more complex concepts, inversion learning involves starting with the most complex or difficult concepts and working backwards to the basics. The idea behind it is that by starting with the most difficult concepts, you are forced to engage with the difficult ones. This way your procrastination levels will ultimately decrease. Tip number 4. And for future doctors, use acronyms to memorize difficult words. Take first letter of each word in a phrase and combine them to create a new word that represents the phrase. For example, NASA is an acronym for National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Tip number 5. Use mental associations to memorize concepts. Here are some ways to help you remember anything. Try using visual imagery. Create a mental image that connects the information you are trying to remember with something else. For example, if you are trying to remember a list of items, you could create a mental image of each item in a funny or gross images to help you remember it. Try using mnemonics. As I mentioned before in my previous video, mnemonics are memory aids that help remember information more easily. For example is Holmes to remember the Great Lakes: Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, Superior. Another way to use mnemonics is to create a visual image that helps you remember the information. For example, to remember the name sphygmomanometer, you can imagine a hotel room with the name sphygmomanometer written on it. Try creating a story. Create some story that connects the information you are trying to remember. Best for trying to remember processes or mechanisms. So apparently your 80% of academic success is achieved by 20% of your efforts. This principle is called Pareto principle. It suggests to find the effective studying methods to ace any exam by just giving your 20% efforts. Tip number 7. If you are reading a book and barely understood anything, then don't go back to read it. Like, how many times are you gonna go back anyway? Instead, fidget your one hand by doodling or using spinner and then read. A total game changer. Tip number 8. When you're watching lectures on YouTube, then instead of copy-pasting material, I want you to write down questions. Whatever question you can think of, write those down. That's the only way to push your last brain cells to understand the words. Kidding. Tip number 9. Never put an all-nighter for exams. If you really need to do it, then leave only easier topics for the all-nighter. Complete the difficult ones before it. Tip number 10. If you start feeling burnt out and cringed from studying, it's better to take an hour nap. But don't stare at TikTok or socials, especially during exams. Tip number 11. If you have only one day for exams prep, then it's best to work smart, not hard. Learn and memorize main ideas only. Avoid being extra in memorizing like bro you ain't got time. Try different techniques to ace exams by just giving your 20% efforts. Crazy, right? Tip number 12. Just pretend. Pretend that you are enjoying being busy working for your goals. If you are pissed off by studying for exams, then you need to look back to those people who are wishing to be as lucky as you. I hope it helps to finally make ace your finals or midterms exams. Come on. Try every one of these techniques and do let me know down in the comments section.